So for ISTE standard number 5, which is the professional learning facilitator, I wanted you to look at the website and see a few artifacts that I posted. So the first one that I put on there is a screenshot of a feedback form that I provided to teachers regarding Google Apps for Education. So right around the turn of the pandemic, we were really going to be relying on Google and all the different applications within Google to make sure that instruction was delivered effectively. So I wanted to have teachers provide what their familiarity was with certain tools so that I could best individualize their needs. And that would go along with substandard A, because I would then design the professional learning based on individual needs. I also added in there a screenshot of an example of where teachers were, and this was not during the pandemic, but this was just basic feedback from teachers of what they are most familiar with or what they are most interested in learning about, so that I could, again, personalize professional development for upcoming professional development days. So both those first two feedback forms are from teachers and their thoughts about where they would want their PD to go. A little further down, I added in, once again, the 9 dimensions rating scale so that I could have feedback from my teachers on how I can improve on my craft. So that would go along with a substandard B, because it would hopefully provide meaningful impact to me, or feedback, excuse me, meaningful feedback to me to provide more individualized instruction for them. I also included on there at the bottom the pumpkin rolling feedback form. I had mentioned this in the previous standard number 4, but I wanted to give teachers an opportunity to provide feedback on an activity that I implemented across the building. It was an interdisciplinary, intergrade level activity that culminated in a pumpkin rolling event in early November. And based on the grade level, we did various activities, and I wanted to get feedback from the teachers on if they feel like we should tweak the activity, should we add to it, should we take something away, or should we just modify it altogether and do something entirely different. But I also wanted feedback on the actual rolling event itself. I wanted to make sure that everyone had an opportunity to see and that they were getting, what they wanted out of the event. So that right there is just the form response. And this was the second year that we did this event, and it's still a work in progress. You'll see that not all the feedback is positive, and that's totally okay. But we're going to hopefully do these events annually, depending on where Halloween lands in the week, because we have to then collect the pumpkins and roll the pumpkins and all that stuff. So those are examples of feedback forms of how I can, according to substandard A, design my professional learning and my professional development based on needs, whether it's cultural, social, emotional, or learning needs. I did also include in there a form for the planned observation or walkthroughs. So something that I want to develop or implement at the division level next year is a walkthrough program where teachers can go around and observe other teachers in their craft. That's kind of a unfortunate byproduct of teaching, is you have the responsibility of being in front of your students and teaching them. So you have very few opportunities where you can go around and see your colleagues in action. And I want to develop some kind of program where they have this ability. The problem is where if they try to do it within the building, they might be going to a teacher in a different grade level. And so the content might not be applicable, but at least they can look for maybe things like classroom management or just style, things like that. So I think it might actually be advantageous to implement this program on a larger scale from building to building, where a 3rd grade teacher, for example, can go to another 3rd grade teacher in another building to see how they're doing things. And that would maybe make the walkthrough a little bit more applicable. The hurdle with that is finding coverage. So every time a teacher would need to leave the class, they would need to get coverage from the administration at both schools. We would need the permission of the incoming administration to accept a visitor. And we would also need permission from the teacher to have a visitor in their room. Not every adult, not every teacher is comfortable having another teacher in their room. So this phase 1 that I attached is basically that first step to give people an opportunity to say, hey, you know what? I don't want someone in my classroom at all. I would love to maybe go see somebody, but I'm not interested in having someone come in. Or maybe they're open to having people come in and go see. So that phase one is just to kind of get feelers of who might want to participate, as well as who would be willing to take someone on. So I'm planning on bringing this to different administration at different buildings at the beginning of next year to hopefully implement something like this. The good news is that Human Resources has actually done something kind of like this on a smaller scale, but just for new teachers. So I want to basically expand that program at a division level to something a little more grandiose, to not just have it for those first year teachers, but to have it available to all teachers, whether they're a veteran of 20 years or 2 years. But in order to do that, I'm going to have buy-in from multiple administration and multiple levels. And more importantly, we're going to be needing coverage. We're going to have bodies to be able to cover someone leaving, traveling to another school, observing, and then traveling back. Overall, though, the reflection is an opportunity for teachers to earn PD points. So there is motivation for them to do it, but it is not going to be required.